Because God knows that one of the greatest needs of a man is for someone to look up to him. And one of the greatest needs of a woman is for someone to admire and love her. In a marriage relationship, the one that should be meeting that need should be their spouse. Hello everyone, Anton Reyes here, and today we are going to be talking about one of the most misunderstood and abused verses in the Bible, Ephesians 5 verse 22 to 26, the Bible verse that tells husbands to love their wives and wives to submit to their own husbands. In the next few minutes, allow me to show you a deeper perspective in understanding these verses and how this principle can protect or save your marriage. Marriage is a covenant between the husband, the wife, and God. But when you ask most couples what the details are in that covenant, most won't be able to answer you. One of the crucial parts of that marriage covenant is found in Ephesians 5 verse 22 and verse 25. Verse 22 says, "Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord." And in verse 25 it says, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." As you can see, there are two sides to this covenant and one standard on how to obey it. The two sides are for the wives to submit to their own husbands and husbands love their own wives. The standard for both commandments of this covenant is Jesus. He is the standard for both the type of submission and the type of love that you give to your spouse. Understanding this will help you see why the covenant of love and submission in marriage is what protects that relationship. First, let's look at what wives submit to your husbands really mean. I've met a lot of husbands who have used this verse almost as a weapon or threat against their wives to make them obey. But there is so much more to submission than just obedience. Biblical submission is a position of being under the person that you are submitted to. In no means does it imply being looked down on or used and abused by the one that you are submitted to. But what it does mean is that in the position of submission, the person who is submitting is looking up to the person that they are submitted to. The key phrase here is looking up. And in marriage, submission is not just about the wife obeying the husband. It is about the wife respecting and looking up to her husband. The obedience is just a byproduct of that respect. Because we know very well that you can obey a person but still not respect them. A wife can decide to just obey their husband out of fear or self-sacrifice, but that doesn't mean that she is already submitted. Submission requires that aspect of looking up in respect. That's why it says, "Wives, submit to your husbands in the same manner as you submit to the Lord." Submission to Jesus is more than just obedience. We also look up to him with utmost respect. And why is this so important in marriage? Because God knows that one of the greatest needs of a man or a husband is for someone to look up to him. Men in general get emotionally attached to whoever looks up to them the most. And when it comes to a married man, that person who looks up to them the most should be their wife. This means that if I ask a husband the question, "Who looks up to you the most?" his answer should be his wife. If not, then the marriage is already in danger because this huge need in the husband's life is not being met and he is now in danger of becoming emotionally attached to someone else. For example, if the husband gets more respect at work, then he would rather spend more time at the office than with his spouse at home. Or if the man receives more respect from his friends, then he gets more emotionally attached to his friends than his spouse. This also explains one of the reasons why a lot of married men with high positions often fall or get emotionally attached to their female secretaries. These secretaries are paid to look up to their bosses. They laugh at their jokes, listen to their stories, shows interest in their lives, gives them compliments, and obey them. Most of these ladies are not really flirting with their bosses, they're just doing their jobs. But if the boss as a husband doesn't receive that respect from his wife at home, because for whatever reason she no longer looks up to him, then he is now in danger to becoming emotionally attached to that secretary. Remember, men in general get emotionally attached to whoever looks up to them the most. Now, if you're a married man and this is happening to you in your relationship, I'm sharing this with you not so that you can blame your wife and use this as an excuse to justify that emotional attachment that you have towards another woman. I'm sharing this with you so that if you're experiencing this in your relationship, you can be extra careful with other women who you might feel is looking up to you. And if you're the wife and you're listening to this, it's important for you to understand how important that respect is in your marriage. And I know that sometimes this could be very difficult, but ask God to help you look up to your husband again and respect him. Sometimes, even after obeying this, there might still be a chance that your husband will still be a difficult person to be with. But at least in your heart and in the eyes of God, you know you did your best to hold up your end of the covenant. And don't worry, there's another side to this covenant that will balance this out, which is for the husband to love their wives. I also just want to clarify that not in any way am I suggesting that wives allow themselves to be abused in any way by their husbands. I understand that there really are certain abusive relationships that you need to draw a line and say enough is enough. Just make sure that in all matters you ask God for wisdom on how to deal with this, and also ask help from wise people on how to protect yourself from those kinds of abuses. Before we look at the other side of the covenant, if you like content related to relationships, behavior, and spirituality, please subscribe to my channel, give this video a like, and hit that notification bell so that you will be notified when a new video is uploaded. Also, if you know anyone who might benefit from this, please share this video with them. Now let's go back and look at the other side of the covenant. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Here we can see that God expects husbands to be the #1 provider of selfless love and admiration to their own wives. The type of love mentioned here is the 1 Corinthians 13 type of love, which says, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. This type of love and admiration is important because in general, women fall or get emotionally attached to whoever expresses love and admiration to them the most. And in the case of a married woman, the person that should be expressing love and admiration to her the most should be her husband. So if I ask the wife, who admires you the most? In all honesty, she should be able to answer that it's her husband. If not, then a deep need inside her is not being met and the marriage can be in danger. If another man comes along and shows great admiration to her, then she can be also in danger of getting emotionally attached to that person if she's not careful. Ideally, in the marriage covenant, it is the husband's responsibility to understand the love language of his wife and be the best at communicating love and admiration to her. And it is the wife's responsibility to keep looking up to her husband and respect him. This becomes a beautiful cycle of love and submission that keeps the connection between the husband and the wife strong. When the husband is intentional in loving his wife in a selfless, Christ-like manner, it also becomes easier and natural for the wife to respect him and to look up to him. If the wife respects and looks up to her husband, it also makes it easier and natural for the husband to be more loving to his wife. It's usually pride that gets in the way and breaks this cycle in a marriage relationship. Once pride starts to have its way, it will always cause division in the marriage. Selfishness starts to rise up and the couple starts to withhold the love and respect they once freely gave to each other. And soon after that, bitterness and resentment starts to creep in and starts its destructive work in their relationship. When this happens, love and submission, admiration and respect becomes more and more difficult to attain. So if you want your relationship to work, you should make sure that pride has no place in that marriage. Love and respect through humility should be the goal. Before we end, here are 4 questions that you can ask yourself, or better yet, process these questions with your spouse or partner. Number 1, how's the cycle of love and respect in your relationship? Number 2, what's hindering us from having more love and respect? Number 3, What can I do to make it easier for my partner to love and respect me? And lastly, number 4, what can I do to love or respect my partner more? I know that this topic might bring up a lot of questions in your mind and also a lot of other additional insights. So please share with us your thoughts about this in the comments below so we can continue to learn from each other and help each other out to have better relationships. My prayer for you is that your marriage and all your relationships be filled with humility, love, and respect. That's it for us today. See you on the next video and God bless you.